Vector support is now available in Azure SQL Database in public preview and is coming soon and is available in some of the other offerings for SQL as well, like SQL Server, Azure SQL Managed Instance, and SQL databases in Fabric. Learn all about it and see some really fun examples for how you can do RAG and how you can use LangChain and all sorts of other fun things, including generating stories about meeting Harry Potter. This week on Data Exposed. Hi, I'm Anna Hoffman, and welcome to this episode of Data Exposed. Today, I'm joined by two members of the SQL product group, Pooja and Amit. Why don't we start with a quick introduction? Pooja, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. Always great to be on Data Exposed, Anna. And my name is Pooja Kamath. I'm a product manager with the SQL DB team, and I'm currently working on the super cool feature, vector support in SQL. So happy to be here to talk about it today.
Awesome. And we're happy to have you. And Amit, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, thank you so much, Anna, and it's always a pleasure to be here at Data Exposed. Hi, everyone. My name is Amit Khandelwal. I am the lead product manager for SQL Server on non-Windows platforms. So that could be on Linux containers and so forth. So I'm joining in as a team with Pooja today to showcase something very cool.
Cool. Awesome. And today we're going to be focusing on some topics related to vector that kind of are around all of the different SQL flavors, as sometimes I'll refer to them. So I'm excited that we have both of you here, and let's kind of get right into it. Amit, we're gonna see you in a bit. Pooja, why don't you tell us a little bit about vector support in SQL database and what that means?
Absolutely. So, as you know, vector support was in early adopter preview last year. And in today's show, we want to reiterate the fact that it has gone public preview starting November 2024. What that means is that if you have an Azure SQL DB today or you create one, you will be able to use the vector support, which is the new vector data type. It's a dedicated vector data type and its associated functions right away. You don't need to get allow listed or join a preview. You can start using it right away. So I suggest whoever's not tried it, go ahead and use it. SQL is not just RDBMS anymore. So it can be used as a vector database, a fully fledged vector database. And that's what this feature is about, where we have introduced a dedicated native vector data type, which means you can store high dimensional vector data in your SQL server right there within your SQL database engine and perform distance functions and functions like normalizing your vectors right within the database engine itself. So that's very cool. You don't need a separate vector database anymore.
Awesome. Cool. And before we get into some cool demos that I know you have planned for us, is this supported in Azure SQL Database, Azure SQL Managed Instance, SQL in Fabric, SQL Server? Like where is this today?
I'm glad you asked that. So it is supported across all flavors of SQL for all our SQL users. So SQL DB is in public preview right now. MI, which is your managed instance, is going to go public preview very soon. If you are a user of the SQL 2025, you're using the private preview today, you have it on the CTB build. So you can use your vector data type there as well. SQL on Fabric and also SQL on Linux. So you have it, like Bob Watt says, from ground to cloud to Fabric. So it's all there for you. The goodness
Awesome.
of vector.
Cool. So let's take a look at a cool example.
Sure. So I'm going to jump right into it and I'm going to keep this simple. This is for users who want to start using it. If you have a free database on Azure, you can start using it, or if you're in the preview, like I said. So this is the vector data type. And if you see, this is the vector keyword here, and we have to provide the number of dimensions that the vector has. And I'm creating a simple table here, which has a three-dimensional vectors, and I can just go ahead and insert it like this into the vector table. And it's as easy as now I'm just going to go ahead and select the embedding from my table. And as you can see, the vectors are now stored directly in your SQL table. So I'm going to give you a more, example, which is something that you can understand the use case here, right? So I have with me a table called Fine Food Reviews. I have about 30,000 customer reviews from Amazon Fine Foods here. So you can have a look at the data here. This is your product ID of the different Amazon foods that you have in the database. The user who's done a review, the score that the user has given, and there's a summary, which is the short form of the review that you have, and the text, which is the actual long form of the long review that a user may have added here. So these are two descriptive columns, and I can now, what I've done here is I've concatenated these two columns and created a combined column. And for this now, I've created vectors for each of the 30,000 reviews. So as you can see, my vectors are now stored here, and these are vectors from the text embedding small model. So this is an OpenAI model, which gives you back vectors 1, 5, 3, 6 dimensions. What you saw here was 3-dimensional vectors, but what you're seeing here is 1, 5, 3, 6 dimensions, right? So we have vectors stored right within our table for each of these reviews. And now if I want to go ahead and do a similarity search to find a product that is similar based on the reviews there, I can now use my vector function. So this is my vector distance function, which is one of the functions that we've introduced. And this is the cosine metric that I'm using. I can use something like Euclidean and dot product as well today. And what I'm essentially doing here is I'm providing it a text saying, give me healthy options instead of Coke, right? And I can now search, we're creating a vector representation of this particular text and searching it against the vectors in our table. So let me go ahead and do that. And let's have a look at what kind of results we receive. So I've received the results real quick. And what I see here is that it is talking about tasty alternatives to the usual soda. So this has been my search term, healthy options instead of Coke. And if you notice this, Anna, it's returning it based on the distance order. And it's also, understood the contextual meaning or the semantic meaning of the query that we have passed, because we're now searching against a vector here. So the word alternative, the keyword alternative was not used in our search, but it's still talking about a great alternative to pop. So it understands Coke is a fizzy drink, or, it is a soda pop here. So it has really given us back results that we're talking about. So it's saying alternatives and it's talking about soda drinks. So that's how, a semantic search would work. Now, going one step further, you can also do hybrid search with SQL. So because the vector distance function is a T-SQL function, you can now use it with your regular T-SQL queries as well. So here's a simple example. I'm going to look for a quick fix breakfast option for toddlers. But what I've done here is not just ordered by distance, but I can use all kinds of operators and filters that I can use with my T-SQL queries. So I've used a case operator here. I've used filters like I want to exclude anonymous users, or I want the score to be 2. These are filters on the regular columns that we have, and I also want it to include keywords like gluten and dairy. So here I'm not just doing a semantic search, but I'm also saying do a semantic and a keyword search. So this gives me back better results, and I can now get more relevant results for my query here. So you see it has given me scores about 2. It's given me, it's talking about which the reviews are detailed. It's talking about a score category, but it's also giving me a semantic search where we spoke about quick fix breakfast option for toddlers, and we wanted the words dairy and gluten to be included. So it's talking about daughter, a 4-year-old, which it understands is the meaning or the semantic word of toddler. Yeah, that's pretty cool, right? Yeah.
No, this is pretty amazing. I mean, honestly, I could use this in my day-to-day shopping online.
Absolutely. And this is how your table would look like, where we have a vector column here with the 1536, which is the number of dimensions we have there. And normally you would use your vector data outside the table. This is just an example that we've provided. So I want to show you another quick demo here. So I have with me here some resumes from a Kaggle data set. These are from the IT industry, and I'm just going to open one of them. And this is a PDF document that you would see here. So I've used document intelligence, and there's a sample out there which I recommend everyone to try. So I've used document intelligence to get the data out of the PDF, and we've chunked it and we've stored it in the SQL table here. So let me quickly show you that here. And if you see, this is our um, data of the resume docs table. So I've done a quick search here where I say, give me similar chunks for the database administrator search query. And I received this, which is quite good. We have done it using the vector distance function and the cosine distance. But what if I could take it one step further, right? I can use a filter here, but if I want to do it using natural language, I want to speak to this using natural language, I can now take the results that I've received here from the vector distance function, which is the set that you see here, and I can now provide it to a model like GPT-4o, which is a chat model. Let's take a look at what we're doing here. So this is a very simple notebook example, and I've created a helper function where I'm providing the results that I got from the vector search in SQL to the completions model here. And I'm using a GPT-4o model, and I'm prompting it to say that you're going to get your answers from SQL, and we're going to perform RAG. This is retrieval augmented generation. So on top of it, let us know if this is a candidate who will be a good fit. Even if all the skills don't match, let us know about why this candidate can be a good fit, and tell us what we can ask them at the interview. So that's something cool that we can do. So let's look at it right in action. And these are so I'm just going to prompt it to ask, what role are you hiring for? So let me go ahead, and at the top of the screen, I'm typing in, I am looking for a product manager in the Azure database migration team. Good to know PostgreSQL along with SQL. So let's see what kind of responses we get there. So this is what the user has asked, and it's going behind the scenes, and it is going to use the results from the SQL vector search, and it's going to go ahead and perform the RAG here. All right, so we have the results now where we asked for a product manager, and here are the AI's response based on the database that we have the resumes in. So it's given me a detailed information based on the candidate and the file name and the chunk in which the information is there, and it has a summary for 3 candidates that I have, and it's specifically speaking about there's no specific mention of PostgreSQL, so you should explore it in the interview, and it talks about data migration experience. So here are the 3 candidates that I have, and let me open it up in a separate tab so you can see this. So what I'm most interested in is it gives me a summary where it's talking about the 3 candidates, where it's saying strong in database migration but missing specific PostgreSQL experience. So it is talking about what I can interview the candidate on and focus on what areas the candidate is strong in. So this is a really good help when you have a lot of resumes at hand. So this was one of the use cases that our customers used. So that's about it. And now we can go ahead and talk about the LangChain integration, which was also announced during the public preview.
Awesome. Cool. That was great. I mean, I've seen so much, I feel like, and I can't wait. I can't even believe that there's more to see. So for that, I'm going to bring back on Amit. And I think you're going to talk a little bit about LangChain and other things we can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So Pooja, and when Pooja showed me this demo, of getting the embeddings, the vectors, and all of this, it was very exciting. So I said, Pooja, what if I'm actually want to do all of this through my Python notebook that I basically have? How would I be able to do this? And she said, there is this new LangChain package developed for SQL Server that I can basically use. And this is something that got me excited, because that means I can now run my SQL Server preview, which is 2025 preview, on a container. So I deployed a SQL Server 2025 preview on the container. As you can see, this is the preview version of the SQL Server 2025 deployed inside a container. I have this up and running right now. And now I'm going to use this notebook and the LangChain package for SQL Server to basically initialize a vector store, which is at the backend, the SQL Server 2025, and then basically do the same things that Pooja did, and all of that actually through a Python notebook. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Pooja did show you a get embedding stored procedure written inside SQL Server. Now what I'm doing here is I'm actually creating the same function inside Python where the data set, okay, while this is running, let me just explain the data set here. So the data set again here is, because Pooja is an avid reader of Harry Potter, so what we did is from the Kaggle data set, we uploaded the one of the chapters from Harry Potter to Azure storage, and then basically did the chunking process. And once the chunking was done, now I'm just creating the functions to basically create embeddings as well as initialize chat that I can basically do. And that's exactly what I do here. And remember, the vector store that I'm actually initializing here in the backend is basically using the SQL Server container that is running. So as soon as I initialize this vector store, the class that I'm actually using here is SQL Server underscore vector store, and the same distance strategy that Pooja talked about. Now we are all managing that through Python, through the LangChain package for SQL Server that was recently developed. And the table that has all of this data is HP book 1. And once I have initialized the vector store, added my documents to the to the vector store, in this case the SQL Server container, I can now query and perform similarity search and drag queries like Pooja was just doing. So for example, as you can see, and correct me if I'm wrong, Pooja, but if you can see here, we now are looking, let's say I want to ask a question, something like, what are the food items that are talked about in this book? And when you run this query, you'd actually see it first gets the embedding for this query, and then based on that performs a vector search on the database, which is a SQL Server container, and then generates these answers, which basically help me answer questions about the book or the data that I ask. And if I want to do the rack scenarios, that's also possible. And one of them here is, as you can see, I'm just creating a question answer bot where it's like an assistant, where I'll ask a question about the book and it probably answers that specific question, ensuring the answer is concise. And it should all get this data from my local database, right? So the container, which is right now acting as a vector store. So if I run this particular query here, you can now see that if I ask the bot, how did Harry feel when he first learned that he was a wizard? The bot basically looked at different chunks of the file and then combined that data and then uh, presented that data in a summarized pattern where it
Wow.
basically tells us exactly how it feels. So, you know what? It just doesn't end it here. We got a little more creative, and because Pooja is such a fan of Harry Potter, why not add Pooja as a character into this? So what we did is, you know what? Because we already have certain data set already in our database, why not add a new character and ask AI to be a little more artistic in creating a fan fiction story for us? So what we did, we are basically giving that specific prompt, and once that prompt is set, now what we are saying is, write a story where Harry Potter meets Pooja, and Pooja talks about native vector support, especially on SQL on Linux, to Harry. And there you go. Within few seconds, you'd probably have this fan fiction story that she can tell to her daughter Tara of how she met Harry. So that's exactly what we can do today with SQL Server running on containers, and you're using Azure AI services in the backend to create the embeddings and the chat completion and all of this that you see.
I'm reading the story. It's hilarious. I love it.
So we were
Oh,
introducing vector support to the magical world. Yeah, it's magic too, right?
I love it. Awesome. Cool. Well, Pooja, Amit, it's been a pleasure. I learned a lot about vector support as well as some fun stories about Harry Potter and learning about vector support. It's great to see the LangChain integration and everything that the team's been working on. Pooja, any final tips or tricks for folks or things that are coming soon that people should be excited or aware of?
Yes, so we are going to be introducing the vector index very soon. So stay tuned for updates. It's going to be disk KNN based index. So we're going to have another data expose show soon, I hope. Yeah. So stay tuned
Awesome.
for that. And we're going to be sharing all the samples that we showed you today, including the LangChain one. It's going to be tagged to the episode. So do go ahead and try it out. Like we said, you could be on any kind of SQL, SQL on Linux, SQL, Azure SQL DB, or SQL 2025, and you can use the same samples seamlessly.
Great. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, both. I learned a lot. I'm sure our viewers did too. And I also had a lot of fun. If you like this episode, go ahead and give it a like, leave us a comment. Let us know what you plan to do with Vector Support, LangChain, and all the different options available in SQL. We'll put some links in the description for you to learn more and try out these samples yourself. And we hope to see you next time on Data Exposed.